not, we'll move to reports from our city administration. Mayor Salza.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. Let me just briefly address item 7, which was just placed on your agenda this evening. The ordinance does refer to, I think it refers to cruisers for the police department. Actually, what these are they're not marked cruisers, they're unmarked vehicles that the police chief has utilized, as well as his predecessor, for patrols in the evenings because they're not as recognizable as a cruiser coming down the street, and it has proved to be a very good crime-fighting tool. And the benefit that we the city, the citizens, and especially the police department, will realize from this ordinance is that they can take the 2 vehicles they no longer need and use those as a trade-in to offset the cost of purchasing the replacement vehicles. I did also want to report, in talking to the city utilities director today, excuse me, he was talking about Western Avenue and the work that's being done there. It has been inconvenient for the traveling public over the past week. We understand that. He anticipates that most of the work will be completed in the street itself by the end of this week. And as a result, the remaining work that needs to be done will be done in the right-of-way and off the street. There will be occasional hour or two that traffic may be reduced once again to 1 lane, but we do appreciate the public's patience and consideration for this important project. This will help in relocating this water line, will help, we believe, in eliminating a lot of the breaks that we have been experiencing on Western Avenue. In the Parks and Recreation Department, the Fishing Trout Derby, the annual Fishing Trout Derby, will be held on Saturday, March the 27th from 8 to 11, and it's for ages 5 to 15 years. After that, the adults can then partake of the trout if they wish. But this has always been a very well-attended event for the youth of our community, and the trout, which is brought to us by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. And just as a reminder, once again, Chillicothe Day at the Cincinnati Reds is on Saturday, April the 24th. The tickets are still available and can be purchased through the Chillicothe Parks and Recreation Office in Yaktangi Park. And finally, I would once again remind the citizens, because this is extremely important, I believe, for our community, the United States Census count this year. Soon, most citizens will start to receive in the mail their questionnaire form. We would ask that they not put that aside and wait till the last minute to fill it out, but to fill that out and make sure it gets back to the U.S. Census Bureau. For those who do not reply, then workers will be sent knocking on doors asking for the information. Why is this important? It's important because it determines, based upon the population, how much money the city of Chillicothe will receive, for instance, in community development block grant funds that we receive each and every year to assist this community. It's also important because it determines also our competitiveness in the abilities to try and receive other grants throughout the course of the coming years, especially for the next 10 years. And finally, in the near future, the city itself, through the water bills, will be sending out their own survey. This will be a lot less than the federal survey. We'll just be asking people to, not by name or by address, but to identify how many citizens are in their household, so that we can hopefully track the same as the U.S. Census Bureau. And if there's a discrepancy in our count and their count, which usually is, we would have some tools in order to be able to try and argue with the Census Bureau that they missed a number of citizens within our community. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Thank you. Mr. Sputnik.
Thank you, Mr. Arnold. I want to say a few words about item number 4 on tonight's agenda, which is the proposed cost allocation study. Several people have asked me why we would do something right now that could result in the city having to pay back money to the utilities or transit departments. And I just want to say that I think that's a legitimate concern. However, I feel that it would be much riskier to do nothing in this situation, because if the state were to step in 2 to 3 years down the road and order a refund, they could tack on back pay, and that could be disastrous for the city. So for that reason alone, I think it would be sound fiscal policy to do this now, although I'm not a policymaker and I'll leave those decisions for council. On a different note, I had a nice discussion this week with our parking enforcer, Jane Moss. She came to me with several ideas about how to make her job more efficient and possibly more beneficial for the city. And she asked me tonight to invite all of the council members to discuss these ideas with her. If you know Jane, she's very personable, very easy to talk to, and so I encourage you to contact her. As far as revenues go, the month of February was short and challenging. EMS fees went down from $100,000 in January to $77,000 in February. Income tax revenues continue to fluctuate from week to week, although local business returns are still consistently outperforming last year, which is a good sign. Hopefully, as we get closer to April 15th, we'll see a steady increase in the number of filings and a more dramatic increase in revenues. And that concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Mrs. Eddy?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to comment with respect to items number 5 and number 6 on the agenda this evening. Number 5 is the to adopt the recommendation of the Utility Rate Review Committee, and I wanted to point out that Mrs. Patrick asked that that be amended from what it first appeared before you last Monday in a special session of council. So I do believe that since there was that item on the agenda last Monday, that a motion to amend by substitution is appropriate when you're at the appropriate time is decided by the president here, just to make sure that we're following the guidelines there. With respect to item number 6, that is the surrender of stocks, and although those are not my stocks, I'm not holding those stocks, but those did come to the utilities department, as Mrs. Patrick indicated, by way of a bankruptcy. And Ohio law precludes the city from holding an interest in a business. So that's why we do need to go ahead and surrender those stocks. We have been in touch with the company that will handle the surrender, and they have no dollar value. But we do need to dispose of those, and I would like to do that as quickly as possible. So if you would waive the 3 reading rule so that we can dispose of those and be in compliance with the law, I would appreciate it. That concludes my report. Oh, I do want to mention happy 25th wedding anniversary to my husband, and thank you for the memories, to paraphrase.
Thank you, Mrs. Eddy. As far as tonight, the only thing I really have to bring up, and I'll again bring it up later, is that we're having a town hall meeting tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock at the Ross County Service Center on Western Avenue in the former Harts Building. It's very casual. The format that I'm planning on using is actually by a questionnaire, something similar to this, which will actually have some questions for the audience to answer, and then have a question at the bottom to fill out, which we'll combine and put through a moderator that will ask the panel of people that we'll have tomorrow evening. I encourage everybody to attend. Something else, we're going to move into audience participation here in a moment. In the paper it was reported that we're looking to have a sign-in sheet when you come into council here before speaking. I want people to know that that really wasn't anything we were discussing to put in the rules as far as anything permanent. The sign-in sheet wasn't anything to try to keep anybody from speaking. It was just a way, if we have a large audience participation at any given time, that we can group the people by their subject and have them speaking at the same time, where I can ask them to stand up depending on what the subject is. But that still means that there's still open communication and participation at any time. We have not implemented it yet. If you're in the audience and somebody thinks of something they want to say but they haven't signed in, you're still going to be able to get up and talk. So we're not restricting anybody from talking by doing that any way, shape, or form.